Hello everyone, it's me, Pandragon Valimar, your dragon cyborg friend from another world. In today's video, I wanted to give my thought about the 11th game of the Trail series, called Trail Through Daybreak, which is a new arc. So it's been a year and a half since I started streaming the series in general, and over time did a thought video about each arc. I did one about the sky, I did one about the Crossbell arc, and one about Cold Steel 1 and 2, Cold Steel 3, 4. And yeah, the last one was Reverie. If you want to see them, their link will be in the description below. So recently I finished the entire series, at least until Beyond the Horizon this fall. And now I think it's about time I give my thought about the last two. So normally I do a single thought video about all the games on a particular arc. But this time I will do the Trail of Daybreak 1 in one video and the 2 in another one. The reason is, well, it's because I wanted the two are not any well together. Well, you will understand why, and for 12 fans, I think they already know why. So today I will only talk about the first one, and we'll do another the one about Daybreak 2 another time. Be warned, there could be some minor spoiler during the video, so be careful with that. Well, I would say it's not really spoiler, but you can see some part of the video that you can still consider as one. Now that I said this warning, let's get started. Now that the Great Twilight is over, and that the disaster of the Retributive Tower had been prevented, everything went back to normal in the Empire and Crossbell. Now the time has come to visit the neighbor, the Republic of Calvort, with a completely new group of heroes from the Arkwright Solution. Their job consists of solving problems that the guild or the police cannot do. So basically, we're what we could call the gray area. Whatever the client is shady or not, they still help them, which is something quite interesting compared to other game series protagonists, where they are just heroes and that's it. They just do good stuff. Oh, they also don't do job for free either, which the Bracer do that for free. All began with Van Arkwright, the founder of Arkwright Solution, who at the time was the only member. He was doing his job alone. He lived peacefully in his office, doing 4SPG, basically quests to help people, and after get paid, and then he was relaxing in his office. But everything changed when a young girl named Agnes knocked at his door and asked him to help her find a device called the Genesis. There were 8 of them. They were discovered soon enough, though, that these devices were not just normal devices, and that a mafia group called Armada want to claim them all. Compared to Trail of Cold Steel or Zero, which began with a flashback from a future chapter dungeon, the Daybreak start at the present, which in my opinion is less confusing and give us a little less spoiler. I mean, they didn't give that much spoiler, but still, they like instead one of the last dungeon, like Cold Steel, that oh, okay, the terrorists will use the cannon to fire Crossbell. I mean, it's a little a spoiler to be honest. So and I don't think these flashbacks were that useful in the game. I mean, they could have deleted them and we will still understand the story. I mean, they would have deleted the flashback of the future of the last dungeon in Zero. They would have deleted that scene. That wouldn't have changed anything, to be honest. Anyway, that was a good idea that this time in Daybreak, there wasn't any flashback from the future at the start. Also, I like the fact that they don't start with all the characters already in the team, like previous game. And then join up later. Well, not all previous game, but some of them. So, and I really like that the more you advance in the story, you basically, in each chapter, you unlock a new character. So it keeps a certain effect of surprise about who's gonna join and when they're gonna show up. I would say it's something I really like in JRPG in general. And that's not something that happened in all the trail. If I remember, I may be mistaken, but if I remember, there is a couple of trail that doesn't happen. That all the character is already here. Another thing I want to mention is that I found interesting how much evolved Talvar technology is compared to the other Zemuria country. At first, it was really strange for me to see cars with road, subways, and a modern city similar to New York or China, depending on where you were in Talvar. But I got used to it quick. I would say it was a good change in the Trail series. Honestly, it gave me the impression that I was playing completely a different game in a different universe. Yes, Crossbelt was a little like Talvar, but not less advanced than them. Crossbelt cannot even compare to them, to be honest. I mean, Talvar has movie theater, which, by the way, during the game you can go see a movie. Well, you don't see really cutscene, it's just a picture. It is a sort of movie, but still cool. They have car races. I mean, that don't exist anywhere else in Zemuria. In the Empire, for example, they still have horse race only. They don't have theater either. That's only a talk about liberal. Which the technology they have, I think it's light energy. Then Earthship, I don't think they have anything else. They don't even have a train. Anyway, all this to say, I really like that it's taking place in a more modern country, and that even if they are advanced, they still use melee weapon. They're not just gun, it would be boring anyway. So I really like this. It was also fun to travel between each chapter town by car, like us during our daily life. Or when we do a car trip, it's instead of a train for a change. I really like better that than a train, to be honest. Okay, I kinda wish we could travel more between previous certain place, like in previous game, which was a motorcycle. In that case, when I'd be in the car, I mean, I would have liked to be able to go to Edit and, you know, for example, Krill, and we riding the car, and not just a cutscene, you know. But at the same time, I don't think it would have worked with how the story was. Because we don't really go outside the town we visit. It would have been fun, I agree though. Because we don't visit Talvar that much. Except the town. I would have liked that we could control the car and, you know, go between each town whatever we want. But, you know, they decided to go it that way. It's not that bad either. Speaking about the story, I really loved it. Not impressive like Reverie, but still great. Already better than Daybreak 2, which I will cover in another video. In this episode of the series, we see so much more blood and people die or get killed in the previous arc. The story is way more sad and dark drama than the other one. Literally, someone died already not long after the start of the game. I don't think I ever seen the start of a trail game someone died at the prologue. Well, everything like this probably happened because of Van. Because Van is working in a more gray area of life, like I mentioned earlier, so which we don't see in much other trails. Most of the time we only see the good, like Class 7. Or the Bracer. Or the bad, like Rivage, Ishmelga, or the DG Code. But nothing between the two. Well, No, Ouroboros doesn't really count for that. So I like they show some kind of a new vision about the world of Trail. That not everything is black and white, like in real life. It's not because you're an hero that everything is black and white, so yeah. I think that made the story really more interesting. Of course, the game also has some funny, hilarious moments, which is mostly thanks to Van, because this guy is just amazing. He's just hilarious. I would say there is a game that have the most dark moment and the most hilarious moment in my opinion. Aside from that, like Montreal, there is a lot of suspense and mystery. That's what made the game so good. The Genesis is a good example. Because those devices are a mystery the whole game. Yeah, to be honest, even after Daybreak 2, they still are. Another thing was the backstory about the main character, Van. Which we only learn everything at the final chapter. During the whole game, they just gave us some hint there and there to let us theorize about it. Those are parts I really like in JRPG in general. I don't think I have anything else to say about the story. I love every part of it, to be honest. It was well written, and I apply it to for all the characters. Well, most of them. Speaking of character, the main villain of the game were really cool. The leader of Almada, Dantes, I think is one of the best villains I ever saw in the Trail series. After Wiseman. Melchior was such a well-developed character too, that I was hating him so bad. It's insane how much I hated him. But he was well-developed character though. Him and Dantes were the right definition of psychopath. Then I love psychopath villain. As for other member of Almada, I didn't really like them. Aside the garden overseer. The guy and Violet, I don't remember the name of the guy, see? I don't really care about them. They were boring. Another villain I want to mention, even if he's not the main one and don't appear that much aside in one chapter, and a little at the end, is Arwood. The fifth English Ouroboros. The fifth, or the, whatever. I don't remember the number he is. But he's a member of our boss, and he was on the Inquis. He is just awesome, and everything is cool about him. I mean, he wear a nice coat, he has some sort of tattoo on his face. Well, I assume it's a tattoo. He smokes a cigar, he loves playing with poison. And he's called the Old Breaker. I mean, everything is cool about him. He became pretty quick my favorite Inquis. I like Wiseman, but no. Arwood is the best. Well, Arya Hood was one of my favorites, but she's dead, so... Oh shit, I did a spoiler. Whatever. I wish we could see more of Arwood, but oh well, maybe in Beyond the Horizon. And speaking of our boss, was really happy to see Walter again. After so long. And the new Enforcer, Lucrezia, was quite interesting. I really love her design. But the design is really cool. Now about the character who aren't villain. For the member of Arkwright Solution, I would say all the character was all interesting in their own way. I'm less of a fan of Judith. Cause sorry, but god, she's so dumb. Judith is so dumb. I mean, just the part in Long Lie. Oh my god, she's so stupid. And Quatre, which... in my opinion, Quarter is really dull as a character. I mean, I don't see him really mad. And I never saw him really smile either. I don't know, I feel like it's boring. Of course, my favorite member is Van. And to be honest, I think he's my favorite main protagonist. I mean, compared to the one from previous game. Like Green, for example, of Lord. Van is not always serious. And sometimes he can be so hilarious. Oh, especially with Sweet and Sona. God, I love this guy. He think of Sona is like an holy ground. I like this guy. Yeah, Van is a great protagonist in my opinion. And then of course, I can forget about Ren. Yeah, she's back in that game. even if she's like more a side character, she is one of my favorite characters in the World Trail series. So I'm always happy when I see her. I miss Powder Matter though. Oh, Powder Matter. And what I like is we see her growing up. My little girl Ren is about to become a woman. I'm so proud of her. But joke aside, wish I could talk about more of the character, but like Dingo or Elaine, I think they were my favorite. But the video would be too long if I do that. Now the last thing I want to talk about is the gameplay. And certain new stuff. Or change Falcom did. The battle in Daybreak is so much better than previous game. We don't have loading during battle. When you enter the combat, no loading. And you just can leave by running away. Movement don't a turn. Basically, movement don't count as a turn. So you can move freely during battle. And basically, when you attack the enemies, you go into field battle. And then you switch a turn-based battle. And so on. You can re-switch every time during the battle. But between combat or turn-based. So, yeah, the game is so much more fluid like this. And more fun, like, which give you more possibility of how to handle your fight. Oh, and when you are in turn-based mode, as I said earlier, yeah, you don't need... You can move freely, you don't have turn. You want to go attack the enemy from the back? Well, you can, and it doesn't waste your turn. Until you attack, of course. So that gives you some new combo and move you can do, because attacking on the back, of course, you can do more damage depending on the attack. So it gives you more possibility how to handle your fight. It's such a good thing. Also, something that changes, instead of having only one, the leader character that move around when you're out of combat, you have the 4 members of your team that you choose. So it makes more sense that the other follow you. So this is not a big change, but still I prefer to see the 4 characters than just one of them. The movement Daybreak is, honest, really much smoother than the previous game. Another thing is that they have changed how cooking work. You have level, and the more you tasting different food, whether you make it or buy it, the more it's level up and give you some perk. They deleted fishing, I was really happy about that. But they bring it back in Daybreak 2, so... Oh well. Then we have the new armament system, which now they have plugins and holo core. To be honest, I prefer the old armament system. In Daybreak, I found it more confusing and complicated. But maybe it's just me that I'm dumb, but I feel like it's more confusing and complicated. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about in gameplay is the alignment. Basically, during certain quests of the main story of side quests, we can sometimes choose how to end it. For example, you stop at a criminal where you can decide either you give in to the police or a year. Another example in chapter 5, when you beat one of the boss, some of them you can choose if you kill him or not. Then depending by your choice, it gives you certain points in gray, law, or chaos. Those don't have really an impact into the game. It gives you maybe different reward and a different route during a chapter 5, but it don't change it that much. It just you see some scene different. Anyway, overall, outside Orman, I really like everything about the gameplay and found it really better than those of previous game. So guys, that was it. All I wanted to say about Daybreak 1. That was really a great game. I really love it. I'm really sad Then the second one, I will talk about it in another video, but it's really sad that the second one wasn't that great at all like the first. So yeah, Daybreak was a good new arc. The first game, yeah, I really love it. I really love the new character. I had really a lot of fun in that game. And the gameplay is so much better. Well, some part of it, oh god, it was better. I had really fun in that game. So yeah, there is nothing else I want to say. I could have speak more about the story and character, but it would have been more spoiler. And at the same time, I don't want the video to be like an hour, you know? Because I could speak about it for an hour. So, anyway. Guys, and you, what do you think about Daybreak? Not the second one, just the first. Leave a comment below if you wonder what you think about the Daybreak one. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content. And if you want to see me live, I'm still live on Twitch, but you can see me live on YouTube too. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of my content. I do short review video, highlight, all this kind of stuff. Well, not a lot of highlight, but I still do some. I'm doing a lore video, a series called Chronicle of Cimmeria. That where I told the story of some lore about the world of Trail. I will release the second one pretty soon. So anyway, that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching. And we'll see each other around pretty soon. Pandragon offline.